You've seen the headlines, right? AI agents are poised to change, well, pretty much everything, from writing code to discovering new medicines. But behind all that hype, there's a pretty startling reality that most people aren't talking about.
Yeah, you heard that right. For all the excitement and all the investment, a staggering 95% of AI agent projects just fail. They never make it into the real world. That's a huge gap between the promise and what's actually happening in production. So, what's the deal? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. We're following the breadcrumbs from a brand new paper called Measuring Agents in Production. And what they did was pretty brilliant. They decided to ignore the 95% that fail, and instead, they zeroed in on that tiny 5% that succeed. They wanted to know their secrets. And let me tell you, what they found is probably not what you'd expect. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll look at the actual reasons companies are even building these things, the surprisingly simple playbook the winners are using, how they keep these agents from going off the rails, the single biggest headache for developers, and finally, we'll get a sneak peek at what's coming next. First things first, why on earth are companies pouring money and talent into something that fails 19 out of 20 times? You might think it's for some crazy futuristic moonshot, but the real answer is, well, a lot more down to earth. So, what do you think? What's the number one reason a company would deploy an AI agent? Is it to invent some revolutionary new technology? To boldly go where no AI has gone before? Let's see what the data actually says.
And wow, the answer couldn't be clearer. A whopping 73% of teams build agents for one simple reason: to increase productivity. It's all about reducing manual work and automating routine labor. So the big takeaway here? The main driver for success isn't some sci-fi dream, it's good old-fashioned efficiency.
And where are these agents actually getting used? You hear all this hype about AI for coding, but look at this. The biggest adopter by a huge margin is finance and banking. They make up almost 40% of all use cases. This tells you that the real value is being found in established industries that are already swimming in data.
And the applications themselves are incredibly diverse. We're talking about agents that automate insurance claims, that migrate code for software teams, that help scientists explore chemical data, or even assist HR departments. These aren't just cool tech demos. They're real tools solving very specific, very expensive business problems. Okay, so we know the why and the where. Now for the how. How are the successful teams actually building these things? This is probably the most important insight from the entire paper. It turns out the secret isn't to build some all-powerful, godlike AI. It's to build the most controllable one. That is the secret sauce right there. The teams that win prioritize control and reliability over raw, unrestrained power. They win by intentionally putting fences around their agents. So let's break down what that actually looks like. First off, forget all that expensive custom model training. A full 70% of successful agents are using off-the-shelf models. They found that just getting really good at prompt engineering is faster and more reliable than complicated fine-tuning. Second, they keep them on a really short leash. Get this, 68% of these agents take fewer than 10 steps before a human needs to check in. So don't think of them as these autonomous thinkers running wild. It's more like they're powerful tools executing short, focused sprints. And this one really is a twist. A massive 85% of these teams build their agents from scratch. They're not using popular frameworks, and that speaks volumes, right? It shows they need that granular control so badly, they're willing to trade convenience to get it. So when you put all this together, a really clear picture emerges. All that stuff you see in research papers, agents taking hundreds of autonomous steps, that's the exact opposite of what works in production. Real-world agents are all about short, predictable workflows with a human firmly in the loop. Which, of course, brings us to the next critical piece of this puzzle, evaluation. With all this complexity, how do you actually make sure the agent is doing its job correctly and staying on track? I mean, you can't just ship it and cross your fingers. You need a rock-solid way to verify the output. And the most popular method? Well, it might just surprise you. In an industry that is completely obsessed with automation, the number one answer is surprisingly old school: humans. A massive 74% of teams rely on manual, human-in-the-loop evaluation as their primary method. The ultimate judge of an agent's quality isn't another AI, it's a human expert. But they're really smart about how they use that human expertise. The most common pattern is a kind of hybrid system.
First, another AI, an LLM as a judge, gives a quick confidence score on the agent's work. If the confidence is low, it's automatically routed to a human for review. And, this is the important part, even for the high confidence results, a human expert still spot checks a sample to make sure nothing is slipping through the cracks.
So, we've seen how successful teams can train their agents and use humans to evaluate them. But what's the single biggest challenge that they still face, day in and day out?
It's not about speed, it's not cost, and it's not security. The number one bottleneck, the thing that keeps these developers up at night, is simply making the agent reliable and correct, time after time after time.
And the reasons for this run deep. Creating good benchmarks is incredibly difficult and expensive. The fact that agents are non-deterministic, meaning they don't always behave the same way twice, totally breaks traditional software testing. And for many tasks, the only way to know if it really worked is when real-world consequences, good or bad, actually show up. And that is a terrifyingly slow feedback loop. So where does all this go from here? The study gives us a very clear signal about the next big frontier for these constrained, reliable agents.
Right now, agents are masters of the text-based world. A full 93% of them work with text, logs, or databases. But the clear trend for the future is a massive push into unstructured multimodal data. Things like images, video, and complex scientific data are what's next on the roadmap.
And this leaves us with one final, fascinating question. Today, the secret to success is control. It's about constraint. But as the underlying AI models get exponentially more powerful, the core challenge starts to shift. Will the next great breakthrough be building even more autonomous agents? Or will it be building the systems and guardrails that finally allow us to trust them? The answer to that is the billion-dollar question for the future of AI.